Welcome back, my friends, to the Mail Right Real Estate Agent Podcast Show. We have an awesome guest today for episode 124. Her name is Stacey Randall. She's with Growth by Referral, and I want to introduce her right now. Stacey, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you, Thomas, for having me. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to come and share the message of how to generate referrals without asking, without having to do that uncomfortable ask with anyone and everyone. So I'm excited to be on your show today and share kind of my knowledge and what I've learned through my journey from one business failure to a successful business built by referrals that I never asked for, triple-digit referrals every year for at least the last 4 years or more now. So I'm excited to share that with everyone and with you guys.
All right. Well, and I'm anxious to dive into it because I have a working by referral business for the last 18 years in real estate. So you and I share some philosophies and then we differ on some, but luckily you've got an open-minded show host here and I'm always anxious to learn. So,
well, and I'm always willing to tell people that they're wrong.
Thank you. Yeah. Hey, you and my wife went to the same school of business, didn't you?
Well, it's actually, we get that when we become wives.
Gotcha. Yeah. And if we're good husbands, we take it.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, Jonathan, before we dive into these questions I have, how about you introduce yourself and tell everyone about yourself?
Oh, hi there, folks. I'm the founder of MailRight. We're a marketing software platform that helps you get quality leads for your real estate business. Mostly also using a great platform that you might have heard of before called Facebook. Back to you.
Is that new?
Yes, no, you never heard of it, did you, Thomas?
All right. Well, and I'm Thomas J. Nelson. I am a residential realtor here in beautiful San Diego, California, where I'm never too busy to serve you and your referrals. And you can find me on my website that's conveniently called thomasjnelsonrealtor.com. All right, Stacey, let's dive into this. So first of all, I want to let people know that you have a fantastic, very resourceful website called growthbyreferrals.com. A lot of great information on your blog, which conveniently is attached to your website. And for those that want to actually go on Facebook, as Jonathan just mentioned, you have your own Facebook page. So a lot of good resources online before you ever sign up for anything, and a lot of good free stuff. I've actually gotten a few resources from your website for free.
Good.
Yeah, so I love it. Let's, I'm going to ask you probably an obvious answer question, but I'm still going to ask it because I believe there's a lot of people that still haven't caught on to the working by referral method. What is, in your opinion, the number one benefit to working by referral?
So I think there's two main benefits, and one I would say is more intrinsic and one is probably more extrinsic. And from that perspective, what I mean is I think one of the best benefits to you as a human to working by referral and to knowing that your business is generated by referral is it's actually like a vote of confidence in your business. And there's really nothing better than to waking up every day and being like, oh yes, people find what I do valuable and it means something to them and it means enough to them that they want to share it with other people. And I think that is that like human drive need for why referrals are so great. But there's also, and I think you could say that's a business reason too, but I really think that's the personal reason why referrals are the best. It's just a constant daily reminder that you are awesome. Yeah. And we could all use that. And then I think the other reason is that referrals are just easier to work with. They're easier to close. They're quicker to close. They're less price sensitive. And they're ready to buy if they're set up for you correctly and they are a true referral and they're not what people refer to as word of mouth or a warm lead or introduction. Those aren't referrals, but if they're a true referral, then they show up ready to buy. They've already identified their problem. They're looking for someone to solve it, and you've been recommended to them. So you're the person they trust. So they're just easier to close. And I think that's the other top reason for why working by referrals, I think, is so important.
And I would agree with those reasons. It's why I do it. Let me ask you this. Let's go to the other side of the coin. Why do people feel compelled to refer? Why do people even refer other people to anything?
You know, Thomas, if you look at the human dynamic and the psychology behind why a referral happens, it actually has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with the person who's actually receiving the referral. And I think a lot of advice out there has twisted that over the years to make it like people want to help you. helping you is a bonus, right? The fact that you pick up a new piece of business is a bonus, but it's not the reason why anyone refers. The reason why someone refers is because they know of somebody who has a problem, and they don't have to like be married to this person to know that they have a problem, right? These problems can come up in just casual conversations, like, hey, I'm dealing with this, right? Or this is my issue, or we're looking to do this. We're looking to buy a house, right? And so when those conversations come up, the person that's talking to them, that's going to say, hey, go call Thomas. You've got to work with Thomas, right? They're doing it not really for Thomas, but for the person in what we're doing on our referral sources, the people bringing us referrals, then that is actually the benefit of what we're looking for when it comes to actually having a business that's sustained by referrals. It's not about you. It's just you. And it is about the person being referred to as a problem and the person who's doing the referral source.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, people have asked me that question because I co-lead networking groups for the Chamber of Commerce here in San Diego. And, what I share with people too is that they, if I go see a great movie, I want somebody else to have that same good experience. I'm not doing it to send business necessarily to the theater. I want my friend to enjoy a good movie that I felt was worth their time to go see, or enjoy a great dining experience at a restaurant. And to your point, so the restaurateur benefits from that, but that's not my number one goal when I'm sending that person the referral.
Right. It's like if your wife were to send you a referral, it's because of you.
Yeah.
But anybody else, it's not really because of you.
Yeah. Not even mom.
Right. Well, maybe your parents. Maybe we can go with your parents, and maybe we can go with your wife. But after that, you're kind of done. It's usually the other person.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was making an inside joke because in my world, my mom was a broker, so I wasn't getting.
Well, then, yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you something that comes right off your website that I was reading about, and I've enjoyed some of your videos too. And you talk about the 4 reasons why people do not receive a referral and what to do about it. Can we dive into that a little bit?
Sure. Absolutely. So, I think the very first reason why people don't receive referrals, and I think it's the one that makes me a contrarian to most of the advice that you're going to find out there, is that I actually don't believe you should be asking for referrals. So I find when people ask for referrals, sometimes you will have a result, right? There are always going to be some that will have a result when they ask. And it's not the first ask that I'm more concerned about for people. It's when you go back the 5th time and the 10th time and every time that you ever see anybody and that you're asking for referrals. And I know the advice is out there. If you have a problem, I've read all the books, I've seen all the stuff that's out there, because I wanted to build a business based on referrals. That's why I started down my path. And this was years ago when I started a coaching practice and a business and productivity coaching practice. And I wanted to build my business on referrals. And all the advice out there is to ask. And if you're not willing to ask, as the advice says, then you've got some head trash that you need to get over. And I was like, but there's still people not asking. So we can't all be wrong. We can't all have head trash we're unwilling to kind of overcome. And so what I found is that the reality of it is when we're always asking, we're making it about us. We're just asking about us. Now, you can teach me a script, and there's lots of them out there that'll show how I position it to not make it about me and to make it about helping somebody else. And I know that those are out there, and I know that they work for some people. But what I teach people about why you don't ask and what you do instead is for the people who don't want to do that, right? It's just another option for the people who are like, wait, I can get referrals and I don't have to ask. There's just another option. So that's the big reason why I tell people that they don't typically generate referrals, is because they are asking. And if they are asking, or they're not willing to ask, but they don't know what else to do, so they're not generating referrals either. But that's usually the biggie. The big reason is that you're asking for referrals. Another one is sometimes when you're paying for referrals, right? Now I understand in the real estate world, that's different. So I used to be a realtor, so I understand how it works. in the real estate world, if you were to refer me a piece of business for someone moving from San Diego to Charlotte, right, and I was to work with them, then there would be a commission that would come back to you as a cut, right? But that's disclosed to the client up front, and it's signed off on paperwork, and they know it's happening, and they understand how it works. The ones where it's standard kind of operating procedure within the industry, and the ones where it's expected, I totally understand because it's disclosed. When it's disclosed to the buyer or to the person that you're working with that this is how it works, it's not a big deal. But it's those kickbacks that people don't always disclose. And I find that when you're paying for them, that also commoditizes the relationship. So when I ask you for referrals or I pay you for referrals, I've just commoditized our relationship. And that violates the actual and ultimate reason why you would want to refer me, which is to help someone you know, not to help me make, another buck. And so those are two really, really biggies. And then the other one that I find that people sometimes struggle with is that they have to be referable. And this is, I think this is one, right? I think this is like, duh.
You mean you can't be a jackass?
No, you can't. Nobody likes jerks and nobody refers crappy work, right? And so, and what I think people don't understand about that when I say you have to be referable is most people say that. Every expert out says, be referable, do great work. That's not exactly what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, yes, you better be referable, and yes, you better do great work. And it is the thing I cannot help you with, right? When someone comes through one of my programs or works with me, you got to do the great work on your own. But what I'm talking about is having a client experience that's not choppy. A client experience that is actually what I would refer to as sticky. And it's that sticky client experience that makes people want to refer you, right? And it's the people who, when they go through it, they know I'm more than just a number to this person that I'm working with. And a sticky client experience, it's doing the work part of that work really well, but then it's also making sure that you're building the relationship part of that work. I tell folks it's a two-part formula, right? A client experience, a sticky client experience has a two-part formula. The first part is, and think about it like when you propose to your wife, right? So I'm going to assume that when you propose to your wife, you gave her a ring.
I did. Okay.
Most people do, not everybody, most people do, right? And as speaking from females, I know we appreciate the receiving of a ring when we are proposed to. Yes, so think about the work you do as the ring, right? In the proposal, right? So the work you do for your client is like it's like the ring, it's the hardware, right? But it's how you proposed. Right. It's the packaging around how you propose, whether you did it like my husband in a hot air balloon or it came in a Tiffany blue box or whatever it is. That's the relationship piece. And so a sticky client experience needs the ring and it needs the packaging. It needs both to truly be a sticky client experience. You got to build the relationship through the packaging. And you got to do great work, right? As well as like buying the home or helping them sell the home or whatever it is. You got to have both pieces. And so when your client experience is choppy, I may be okay working with you, but I'm sure as heck not going to send anybody else your way.
Yeah, because that goes back to what I was saying about wanting people to have a good experience that you had. They don't refer satisfactory; they refer wow. Right. And if you're not wowing them, you're probably not. You got their business, and you might get their repeat business down the road, but you're not going to get their advocacy.
Right, and it's that wow factor that I think people understand and they know they need to give it, and then they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, what does that look like? Do I have to spend a bunch of money? I'm like, it is not the welcome mat at the closing table. Like, that's not what we're talking about for the wow factor. And what most people don't understand is that if you're focused on building a relationship with your clients, sometimes it doesn't actually have to cost you any money to give them the wow factor. They just have to know you care. I mean, for me, when people would start working with me, when I worked with a lot of different business owners as a business coach, the first thing I would do when they said yes to working with me and they signed their paperwork and we got their payment stuff all set up is that they received a handwritten card from me in the mail that just said, hey, we're about to start on a journey and we're going to help you get to wherever you're trying to go. And it's going to be messy and it's going to challenge you and you're not always going to like me, and that's okay. You're not doing this alone. I'm your co-pilot. And that was a card with a stamp that I just had to write and mail out the door before their first coaching session with me. And that was a wow experience. And it didn't cost me much, but it let them know, I see you. I recognize the work we're about to do together, and you matter more than me. You matter to me more than just collecting dollars. Yeah.
My mentor, who I've coached under for the last almost 20 years, actually, is Brian Buffini. And he talks about, when you sit down to write a personal note, the first question you ask yourself is, how can I bless this person I'm about to send this note to? And so you really have to put some thought into it. And from what you just told me about that personal note, that has the wow factor in it, because it's saying, I recognize something you might be fearful of, but I'm here for you. And,
Right.
and I'm anticipating some of the things you're concerned about. And by the way, just to jump back for a second, I love the analogy of the proposal, the ring and the delivery of it, because that really made a concrete picture in my mind of what you're talking about here. So I thought that was a great analogy, because a lot of people think the ring is enough, but if you botch the proposal, I mean, because sales is like dating. I mean, it is
Yes.
so close to dating. It's crazy. I mean, and it's, and that's why I related to that analogy, because I've always thought of sales as dating, and you don't want to propose marriage on the first date. So you want to dive in to closing when you first meet a person. So, and I know from watching some of your videos that falls under some of the rookie mistakes people make when they're trying to work by referral. And I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the mistakes you see people making when they're trying to generate referrals, and what you do to kind of set them straight.
Yes, but before Stacey answers that question, we need to go for our break, folks. And
I told you to interrupt us.
I know, darn, Jonathan, you're just messing up our mojo.
Yeah, there we go. That's my purpose in this show. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back, folks. I've messed the show up. That's my purpose in life. But there we go. Back to Thomas, and hopefully Stacey will be able to answer his insightful
Well, I mean,
question.
that's why it's helpful for you to have that beautiful English accent, Jonathan, because it sounds so polite even when you interrupt us.
Even when you're being rude, it's just so nice.
I do try.
Just interrupt us again, please.
I do try and be polite, folks.
All right, so let's talk about rookie mistakes. What do you see people doing wrong, but more importantly, how do you get them to change those habits?
Yeah, so one of the big rookie mistakes that I see people make, and there's a lot of them, and I kind of highlight a couple. And the reality of it is I always tell folks, what I teach is not rocket science. You just probably haven't thought about it in a way. And a lot of the experts that are out there when it comes to generating referrals, there's a lot of things that we believe that are the same, that are similar, right? But then there's some areas where we kind of deviate too. And I think one of the rookie mistakes that I always help people understand is, and that they have to kind of work their brain around to really grab onto, is understanding that just because we're not going to ask for referrals doesn't mean we're going to do nothing.
Right.
But it also doesn't mean we're going to send out a bunch of third-party cards every single month and consider our referral work done. So there's a little bit more to it. And so one of the biggest rookie mistakes that I really see people make is there's like, okay, I'm not asking, and I don't want to, send out a card every single month to the same, so many people saying, let me know if you know of anybody. Like, what else can I do? And I think a rookie mistake that people don't recognize is there is some work involved, and you've got to have a system. You've got to have a process that you follow. And that's ultimately what I teach people is, okay, so what does this process, what does this system, what does this referral generating plan look like, so that you can actually stay in close contact with your referral sources. But what I teach people, and I see as another rookie mistake people make, is that they confuse keeping in touch with staying top of mind.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, they're just two totally different things. And so a lot of systems that you can use, and I tell folks, tools aren't necessarily the solution, or tools alone aren't the solution to generating referrals. So people think about like sending out cards or notes or something like that, and they're like, oh, I got the solution. I've got this tool. It's the solution. I'm like, no, you need a toolbox, and you need a bunch of tools in there. And the card you may send out that's generated by a third party, maybe one of them, or the handwritten cards, maybe one of them, but it's not the only one, because I don't need to just constantly stay in touch. What I need you to do is to have a feeling towards me, and to have a relationship with me. And so I can only develop that relationship with you if I have some ongoing outreach or some ongoing connection to you. And I deliver that with the program that I teach through touch points. But these touch points aren't something that somebody else gets to do for you.
Right.
And that's where I tell folks there's work involved. There is, but trust me, this work is so much better than cold calling or farming a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right. And it should be cheaper, which is even better. But it's having a system and having a process so that you are actually connecting with your referral sources in a way that you probably haven't paid attention to before, to truly focus on building relationships and doing that in a way to stay top of mind. It's not about staying in touch. I can mail you or email you just about anything and kind of stay in touch, but I want to stay top of mind. I want to reside in a place in your mind, right, that is more than just one of, in your case, Thomas, the 1,000 realtors you happen to know in San Diego. I want to be the only realtor, right? I want to be the only person who comes to mind. And so you have to stay top of mind in that way, which means it all comes down to the relationship that we form. So my philosophy is really simple. I always tell folks that referrals come from relationships. Relationships come or are maintained through ongoing connections, right? And you can deliver those connections through touch points. And so it's not difficult. You just got to build a plan and a system around it so that you can actually be meaningful and memorable to your referral sources. And just sending a card every month isn't going to cut it.
Okay. So basically, one of the big rookie mistakes is not having a plan, and or they're inconsistent with their plan at best. And so what you're helping people do is have a plethora of tools to use that they kind of, would you say that they use them all on every person, or are they picking and choosing the appropriate ones because they know that client needs something that client over there doesn't need? So are you customizing it, or how does it work?
Yeah.
In your database?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that, when people are with my Growth by Referrals program, the way that it works is that we are looking at only your referral sources. Now, we have another system that we kind of use within the program that says, okay, you want more referral sources, right? So referral sources are someone who has referred you. We also have what we refer to as soon to be referral sources. Right. So those that we want referring us. The reality is not all your clients are going to refer you.
Right. Okay.
They're just not, right? So we're aiming for that 20 to 30% that probably will. So we're focused on your referral sources or soon to be referral sources. And we are categorizing them and grouping them in specific ways for specific reasons. And then we're delivering those touch points or that outreach to those groups, because that's how we're actually able to automate it in some way so that we can actually manage it, but it's still personal. Okay. There's still a personal touch to everything we do, but it does allow us, when we kind of group some things together and we automate some pieces of it, it just makes it more manageable. Because, and I always tell folks, if they do a referral generating plan the right way, and it actually has some memorable and meaningful touch points within it, like throughout the year, there's months when you're not actually having to do anything. Right, you're not having to drive by and drop off, or like drive by and see somebody or mail a card or every single month. You actually can do things that have a bigger deal that let you do less throughout the year.
Right. Like for example, I just threw a gratitude gathering last week, a pre-Thanksgiving party for my best clients and referral sources. And so I had 70 people that are my greatest advocates show up. And so instead of going to 70 different houses, they all came to me. Yes. one event, bigger impact. Yes. But I love what you said, because you corrected me. My mindset was, okay, I'm doing this to my entire database. No, I'm doing this to my referral sources within the database. But then that begs the question, okay, in my mind, there's two people then. There's the obvious people that refer me because they're already doing it. But those soon-to-be ones, how do you identify the ones that are soon to be versus the ones that never will? Not because they don't want to, it's just they're not wired to refer.
Right. And so I always tell folks, there are some people who never will, so you just got to move on. You just can't beat yourself up about the six. But there are other people that you know. So you mentioned my blog earlier. There is a blog article on the blog that's called When You Need More Referral Sources. So increasing your referral sources. And it walks you through some steps. And there's an activity you can download that'll walk you through the 4 steps of what it looks like to actually say, okay, I need more referral sources. Now, these would be more from center of influence, because clients are really just easier to turn them into referral sources. But these would be more for centers of influence. But it works the same way for clients. And it starts with identifying, well, who are those people in your database that are natural connectors, that seem to know a lot of people, that aren't completely shy shy and introverted, though some of my better referral partners are shy and introverted. So there's nothing, it's not a personality thing, but it's easier to sometimes to identify the people who just seem to be a little bit more connected, who just seem to be a little bit more out there, like, you know, they're on chamber boards and things like that, right? But they may not be referring you yet. And it's kind of like cultivating those people and putting them through the same process and plan. Now, I always tell folks the secret sauce for me is the referral planting seed language that I teach people to use during all those touch points. Like, what do we say? So we're never asking, but that we're planting the seed to generate more referrals. And that language, I think, is the critical piece. It's kind of that secret sauce. So the language we would use to those soon-to-be referral sources would look different from someone who's actually referred us, because we would say different things. But you can still kind of take them through that same process. But it truly starts by trial and error. I mean, it truly starts by looking at your database and saying, okay, are there people in this database that are really well connected that I should probably be cultivating a better relationship with to be able to see if I can generate referrals from them? And so, like, I have a group right now that's going through, they just joined the program right before Thanksgiving, and they're going through 5 weeks of guided support with me to get through the program and have their referral plan done before Christmas. And so what they're looking at is the exact same thing. They're like, okay, we've got these referral sources, and then we have these people we want to be referral sources, but they're putting them all in the same plan and running them through. They're just applying different language. And we do that on an ongoing basis, because I always tell folks, like, I think it's great if you join my program or you read any of my information that's free on the website and you pick up a couple of referrals. I think that's awesome. But actually what I'm most interested in is how many referrals you're still generating, not 3 months from now, but how many referrals you're generating 3 years from now. Because that is how you build true sustainability and success and freedom in your business.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. To steal a phrase from Brian, it's Brian Buffini, it's recession proofing your business,
right? Which
I unfortunately got to see firsthand from 06 to about to 2011, because if it wasn't for referrals, I don't know if my business would have survived if I was just buying leads or doing some of the more transactional type things that realtors do to generate business. So, but what you're talking about then is tapping into, like for me, for example, that would be me tapping into people that are prone to refer, that may be like an attorney or an architect or a property management company, people that are already out, not only active in their networks, but they're also connected to people I want to get connected to.
Right.
But I think we should be clear. This is not just a technique for somebody to use. You have to, in your heart of hearts, got to want to create these relationships with people. Or they're going to see right through you, right? I mean, you can't teach somebody to have a personality. They got to have a desire to be in this mindset of, and I would venture to say it's a giver's gain mindset, where you're not just taking from these folks. You're offering them something. And I would say first.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's the mindset you always have to come from. And I think that's when I tell folks, when they kind of land and find me, I'm like, here's what I'm all about, right? I think you can generate referrals without asking, without manipulation, and being authentic. But that authentic piece of who you are has to be one that actually cares.
Right.
So the person who's only in it for themselves, this process, it will ultimately not work, because you're not being genuine.
Right.
And I think that's the piece that people are kind of attracted to my program for, and kind of attracted to the work that I do, because they do feel like I'm only interested in you being genuine and you doing this for the right reasons. And the fact that your business is going to grow from it is awesome. But ultimately we start with one of those golden rules of referrals I always teach people is give first. Make it about the other person. You've got to give first. And I think that's where Brian Buffini and I are completely in alignment in terms of what this looks like. It is all about the other person and how you can make their world better, because it does come back around, and givers do receive and they do gain. And it makes the world a better place. Like, I'd rather wake up every day and be given to other people, knowing that's going to come back to me in other ways as well. And so, yes, you have to come from the right place for this to work. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong that you want to generate referrals, and that is ultimately what you're after. But what it means is that you're putting other people first, and you're being authentic, and you're being genuine. And I think that matters, because we need more of that in the world. We don't need anything that's more fake.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I wanted to we probably should have done this at the top of the show, but I wanted to dive into how this all got started for you. Like how did you come up with wanting to put together a formal website and training, growth by referrals, where did that evolve from?
Yes.
I'm gonna do it again. I'm sorry, Stacey.
Jonathan,
We're gonna have to go for to wrap this up, Thomas. And Stacey can reply to this on our bonus content. You're able to find
Jonathan's the king of the cliffhanger. So, folks, if you want to find out the answer to this and a couple other questions we're going to ask Stacey, you got to jump off of iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and join us on YouTube now. But for the purpose of our podcast, Stacey, first of all, thank you for joining us today. And if people wanted to get in touch with you and find out more about you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so they can go to growthbyreferrals.com, and I actually have a page that I will put up for them. They can find a lot of the stuff you've talked about today. They'll find it on one page, make it easy for them to find. It'll be growthbyreferrals.com/mailright. And then that page will have all their information. There's a quiz they can take. They can join my free referrals without asking Facebook group and get some more downloads, some freebies. Everything's free on that page.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Jonathan, if people wanted to take advantage of your services, how would they do that?
Oh, it's really easy, folks. Go to the MailRight website. We've got a ton of information, all the podcasts, video, and just got a load of information. And also we've started a Facebook group, which I've got to discuss with Thomas, but we get that rolling a bit, where we're going to be answering your questions, getting more interactive with our listeners.
Nice. Yeah, I just got invited to that myself.
You're administrator now, Thomas.
And of course, if you need help, whether it's with buying or selling or just great advice or getting connected to the right people, I am a connector here in San Diego, California. I'm Thomas J. Nelson, a residential realtor with Big Block Realty, and I'm never too busy for your referrals. And now, folks, I'll say goodbye to you on behalf of Jonathan and Stacey. Thanks for joining us. But if you want to learn more about working by referral without asking, join us on YouTube right now. And for our listeners, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. All right, ready for YouTube?
Yeah.
All right, so back to the question. How did this all get started for you, Stacey? Like, why one day were you probably working in corporate America, or you were a consultant? I know that for a while. You were very candid with that business in year 5 falling apart. Is that what led to this, or was there something in between? How did this come about?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I would, if you told me, I don't know now how long it's been, over 10 years ago, that I'd be sitting here having a conversation with you about a program that I offer that teaches people how to generate referrals without asking, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Because that was not the plan. That was not what I thought that I would be doing. But actually, generating my business based on referrals when I started my second business came out of sheer necessity. So let me back up for just a quick second. Yep. I started a consulting business, like you mentioned. I had worked in corporate America. I started a consulting business. And it was great. I had big name clients. We're talking like KPMG, BDO, Snyder's Lance. This is before they were Snyder's Lance. They were just Lance Snack Company back then. Coca-Cola Bottling Consolidated, the City of Charlotte. Like, I had some big name clients, and I was a consultant for them. And from the outside looking in, the business looked like it had to be amazing. I was, interviewed on Bloomberg News, and I had, I had all these interviews and articles published and things like that. But on the inside, the business was crumbling. And it was crumbling because I never figured out a way to generate business in an ongoing way, to touch business development every day. And when I say touch business development every day, here's what that looks like for Stacey. Here's what that looks like for me. I got to want to do it.
Right.
Like, it's not that I didn't know what to do. That was never my problem. I have a background in sales and marketing. Yeah, it's not that I didn't know what to do. It's like I didn't want to. I couldn't find anything that made me like, oh, let's go do that today, right? Yeah. In terms of generating some business. So when the first business fell apart, it's because I had a huge client that when they weren't a huge client, I had to scramble to bring on new clients. And I did. Selling isn't necessarily my problem, but it was the consistency behind my willingness to do the work to bring in the clients. And eventually the business just couldn't sustain itself, and it kind of imploded. And it's from that I went back to corporate America. And then while there, I went to work within a financial services company. I went to work there and I started paying attention to how the financial advisors in that firm, I was not a financial advisor, but to how the financial advisors in that firm were being trained how to generate their business. And so I started hearing more and more about referrals. I knew about it, but not a lot about it. I started doing some research. I started paying attention. And later, I was less than 2 years later, I had a chance to go back out on my own. And I started a productivity and business coaching practice. And I decided that referrals was going to be my way of generating business. And that was sheer necessity, because having another business failure cannot be another option for me. Like, I don't want to go through that ever again if I can help it. And so it's certainly not, I'm not going to go through it again based on lessons learned that I didn't learn from, right?
Right.
So I started building out a business based on referrals, but I couldn't ask. Like, I just couldn't do it. And I'm an extroverted person. I love people.
You are?
Yeah.
I'm not picking up on that.
Not at all. But I always tell people my referral success has nothing to do with my personality.
Right.
Because my very, one of my very first clients I worked with was the exact opposite of me, and she had crazy success. And that's when I knew, okay, there's a system here. It's not right. But with my business, I was like, okay, I want it to be referrals, but I don't want to ask. And I'm not really shy or scared to do anything. I mean, there are things I am unwilling to do. I'm not going to touch a snake. But the reality of it is, it's just, you tell me to do it and I'll probably go try it or do it, but I could not get comfortable with asking, not any of the scripts, not any of the ways. They felt like they were manipulating situations. It felt like it wasn't coming from the right place. So I built this process that I now have refined into a system, into a plan that I teach others. And that's how I built my business. And my first year as a business coach, I generated 112 referrals, none of which that I asked for, and over 100 referrals every year since. And my clients, because I worked with business owners, my clients started saying, what are you doing? You're raising your rates on us. It's harder to get on your schedule. Like, what's happening? How are you growing so fast? And I started sharing with my business owner clients who were realtors and financial advisors and other coaches and home builders and photographers and, insurance agents. I started sharing with them, attorneys and CPAs. I started sharing with them what I was doing. And then they started having success. And I was like, got something here that's different, that's interesting, and that really needs to be shared. And so that's when I built the program back in 2015. We've been doing that ever since, and kind of focusing on the program of teaching other people. And now the program is international. We had our first international person join the program this year, which is really exciting.
Nice.
And teaching people now all around the world to really generate referrals without asking, in this specific way that I teach it, in a way that people are comfortable doing it. And I think that I never would have thought this is where I was going to land, but obviously it's exactly where God wanted me to be.
Well, I mean, and I think that's true of a lot of inventions. They're actually born of a personal need of the inventor. Right. Or the founder, and then it just connects with people. Because and I can candidly share with you that I know for a fact that there's a ton of people within my Buffini coaching groups that have to make it their own. They can't take it off the factory floor and go insert into business. They then customize it, if you will. So when you say I'll tell you, probably one of the number one things I hear in conversations is call reluctance, because people, they have all the tools. They have, they're not a huge script company, but there are scripts to help you get started, and people just resist that. So I think what you found is a way to take it one step further, potentially, and say, okay, well, people are already on board with the working by referral method, but they may not be on board with how to actually do it.
Right.
And I think you make some great points on just the differences. And they actually work together very cohesively, because they complement each other.
Yeah, I've got a question, Stacey.
Yes.
So if you were, let's say, a newish real estate agent, and you were listening to what we've been discussing, how would you approach building up some referrals if you were once again a real estate agent professional?
Yep. So there's two things I think you have to pay attention to when you're new in business. And it doesn't matter if you're a real estate agent or a CPA or anything else, but focusing on it from a real estate perspective, there's two things you have to do. But before I give you those two things, I want to caveat that and just say, at the same time, there is something to be said for what the first year looks like in business. It's never easy. There's not a massive shortcut around the hard work, and you will pound some pavement. And then as a realtor, you probably, if you need to feed yourself in the next couple of months or pay a rent or a mortgage, you may gonna have to pick up that phone and do some calling. It's not about starting day one and being like, I'm only going to work by referrals. Like, it doesn't really work that way. You have to put some different work in. But if I was a new agent and I was looking at my business and I'd be like, okay, there are certain things I need to do that I would refer to, or that are my prospecting activities, because I call it prospecting plan that I need to eat tomorrow, right? So there's some things I need to do that are prospecting based that I'm going to go do because I need to make money now. But at the same time, I'd be doing two other things that would start seeding and beginning my referral process, so that as my business grew, if I were doing these two things correctly, I could be growing a referral plan at the same time I'm growing a prospecting plan. And then eventually I could eliminate my prospecting plan and focus completely on referrals. And then one of the things is start looking for people who need to naturally, as Thomas said earlier, who need to naturally refer to realtors or should be. Start developing your own little center of influence, your COI base of people who would be referring to you, and really get to know them and invest in them and see how you can help them and develop a relationship with you. Because at the end of the day, realtors are in a dime a dozen market. They are in a saturated marketplace. They're like attorneys, right? I work with a lot of attorneys, a lot of realtors, and a lot of CPAs. Yeah. Dime a dozen, all of them. And so it's not hard to rise to the top, right? But you got to do some work to get there. So the first thing I would say is start developing a base of people where you become their realtor that they're going to refer to. Maybe you're going to join the Chamber of Commerce. Maybe you're going to join other groups. Whatever it looks like, start finding your tribe. And you will do this by trial and error. It's like being a Disney princess. You're going to kiss some frogs before you get to actually finding the couple that are actually going to have a mutually beneficial relationship with you. So start building your centers of influence. The second thing to do is your first couple of clients, you better love the heck out of them. You better take amazing care out of them, because those are seeding your first potential referral sources for you that are clients. So you're going to be building referral sources that are centers of influence. At the same time, you're taking amazing care out of your clients that are your first couple of clients, so they can become referral sources as well. I mean, I remember when I started in real estate, my first couple of houses that I sold were not from referrals. They were from leads, right? I mean, and this was back in 2006 when you could people were like falling out of the sky to buy stuff, right? So the leads were actually worth something. Like, you actually could make money off of it. And I know the first couple of people that I sold houses with were leads, and then I got referrals from them. And then I started getting referrals from other people within my centers of influence and my network. And then I became more referral based before I decided, after having children, that that's not what I wanted to do. And so the reality of it is that there's no silver bullet. I don't teach a silver bullet. My program isn't a silver bullet. There's some work involved, but I'd rather do this kind of work over cold calling any day of the week.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because I could tell you, I was working by referral in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. Then I relocated in the middle of my career to San Diego, and I really had to put it to the test, because I knew nobody except for my wife, and I knew she wasn't going to buy a house from me. So right on your advice, I didn't go out and try to find clients right away, although I was putting things into motion. I was trying to find connectors and hubs. And what I mean by that is going back to what we talked about earlier, people that are already working with my clientele. But it's not about, hi, I'm new in town. What can you do for me? I really need to get my business going. It's, what can I do to be of value to you as a resource? What do you as an attorney need from a realtor that you have a hard time getting that I can be reliable about? Or whatever, whoever the person is, where can I stand out as valuable to them? And then create that relationship that now they're endorsing referrals. And then, to your point, you better love on those people, because especially these days, you're talking about real estate a few years ago where it wasn't as prominent. Nowadays, online reviews are everything. And so those first few clients are going to be huge for getting your online reviews going as well.
Yes.
I just got kind of one final question, and then maybe we can wrap it up, Thomas. Because you just touched on, I think it is strongly linked. I'd be interested to see your response. Online reviews, especially in real estate or many service-based businesses, they're becoming more and more important. How do you generate those? Is it really the same situation? You shouldn't ask somebody to do an online review.
So you know what? I actually believe the reason why I tell people don't ask for a referral is because you're asking me to refer someone else to you. And that violates why I would refer someone else and what their need is. But if I'm just asking you to tell me what you thought about working with me, and I'm not asking you to involve any other parties, it's just yourself, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for a review or a testimonial. And in fact, I think the best way to do that is to ask a couple of questions, let them answer those questions, and from their answers, compile the testimonial for them, because it's more likely that they'll actually answer your questions and versus sit down and write you a testimonial. So, my book on generating referrals without asking, that's not the official title. We're still working on that with the publisher, but I'm in the middle of book endorsements, right? So the book is almost finished. It's going to the publisher. It'll be out in fall of 2018. And, the one thing the publisher says, you're going to have to go ask for endorsements. It's just like asking for a testimonial, but I'm only asking you to do something for me. Now, these people, I'm actually asking them to read a book. So it's a little bit more, but the reality of it is it's still, that ask is different because it's just to that person asking them to do something for you. And you typically only ask people that will say the positive things back. Like the reality is I asked people to read my book, but I had a pretty good sense those people, even if they were super busy, I still knew that they would probably say yes to me because of who I was and who our relationship was.
Right.
And the same thing goes for asking for a testimonial from a client. That client probably has already said some positive things about you. Rephrase that back to them and ask them if they'd be willing to put that in writing for you. Or would you be willing to answer a couple of questions about working with me, and I'll take that and create a testimonial that you can then approve. And most people are like, just write something. You know how I feel about you. Just write something and I'll just tell you if it's good or not. And either way, I don't think it matters that you ask, because you're asking someone to just spend a little bit of time writing down what they thought about working with you, and there's no one else involved.
Funny enough, Stacey, I know a platform that has a system that does exactly that.
Really?
Yeah, I do actually, Stacey. But also,
I hear a shameless plug coming.
Also, Stacey, when you've ready to publicise the book, you must come back to the show.
Yeah,
and we'll discuss.
Thank
the
you.
book with you. So it's been a pleasure having this chat. So I'll throw it back to my great co-host Thomas, and he can wrap up the show.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. I see. I have to have Jonathan on because when I have guests like you, I lose track of the time because this is like right in my wheelhouse. I love talking about working by referral, even with different methodologies, because there's always a nugget. Every guest comes on with a nugget or two to share. Before you sign up for anything or buy anything, you guys are all our guests have been generous, and Stacey, you've been extremely generous with a lot of the information you've shared. We would love to talk to you when the book comes out too.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, for our viewers on YouTube, how can they get in touch with you if they want to get more information? And one quick question too that you can answer is what is the length of your program when they sign up?
So the length of the program is 6 modules. It's all video based. Most people can go through it in half a day. Just depends on actually how disciplined you are. I can sit down with anyone one-on-one in a VIP session and build a referral generating plan in about 4 hours, sometimes a little bit less. So this process is not difficult. The work comes in after it's built. Right. And then you got to go execute on it for a year. And I build all plans as a wash, rinse, repeat model. I want you doing it year in and year out, tweaking as necessary, making things a little different, not getting stale, and tweaking, of course, what's maybe not working. But yeah, so, the program is built on the same way a VIP session is. It takes a couple hours to go through it, and then it's done, and you can have it built, which I think is great. But the program is called Growth by Referrals. You can find out more about it at growthbyreferrals.com/mailwrite. I'll put all the information on that page. And if you want to go check out the program, I don't know when your listeners obviously will be listening to this. It's not opened all the time. I open it up to new students, bring them in, help them get through the program, and then continue to support them in a private paid only student Facebook page. But if they do happen to land on the page, it's growthbyreferralssystem.com, and they can find out more information about the program itself. But all that free information, which is where they should start, don't buy until you decide that I've got the philosophy that you want to learn from, is of course growthbyreferrals.com/mailwrite.
Awesome. Thanks for setting that page up for us too and our listeners. Okay, folks, Jonathan is my co-host, and he wants to tell you how you can reach him.
That was really simple, folks. Just go to the Facebook page and join our group, which will be in the show notes on the MailRight website.
All right. And once again, I'm Thomas J. Nelson, a residential realtor here in San Diego, California. And you can reach me through my website at thomasjnelsonrealtor.com, or as Jonathan says, my Facebook page, which is conveniently also thomasjnelsonrealtor.com. And I'm never too busy for your referrals here in San Diego. We will see you next week on our YouTube channel. And as always, you can join us first on iTunes. Be sure to subscribe and leave us your comments. We love reading your comments, especially when you have suggestions of guests that you would like us to interview in future episodes. Until then, have a great rest of your week, folks, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody, for being here.